Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Pavement Matters, which is brought to you by Pavement Management Services. I'm your host, Lachlan, who is back in the podcast chair after a little bit of a time away. And I've got a very special guest with us today. We have Dr. Dr Yeaman, founder of Pavement Management Services, an all-round great guy. How are you doing today, John?
All right, thank you, Lachlan. Yes, after a long flight and a long walk at the airport, I'm here in one piece.
Oh, that's good. You must be getting pretty good at this podcast stuff
yeah.
now, because this is you probably got more experience than me now after being on last week.
One attempt isn't much experience.
Oh, it's all we need. So actually, what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit of story time, I suppose, because it wasn't that long ago, but Pavement Management Services used to be quite involved in the Middle East. So how did that come about?
Well, initially, son John got an inquiry to go to Qatar to look at a pavement that had failed. And when I say failed, it was impassable. They built it for the games, for the Arabian Games, and they got rain, and the rain, you couldn't move on the rain. So they got us in to have a look at it. John went and gave his presentation, and the guy said, "Stop, we know more about you than you know about yourself, and we know you can't be corrupted. Take this contract and read it on your way to England and bring it back signed." So that gave us a pretty fair sort of job. It was about a $3 million US investigation, which then converted into a much bigger job and went on where we had to supervise the replacement of the road. At the same time, we picked up a major contract for Abu Dhabi municipality to set up a pavement management system for the whole of the Abu Dhabi municipality. And that was about a $25 million US job. So we upsticked, had a very good man in New Zealand, Daniel Ludeman, and we took him over there. I took Zaffa, who'd worked with me on the Sydney Performance Space Management contract, and Alan from New Zealand. So we had a pretty strong team going. We also picked up another guy from the Northern Territory Works that I had worked with, Shane Dalhelm, and so we put them on the ground to do the full pavement management system for the Abu Dhabi municipality, for one hell of a big job.
And what year would this have been?
About 2006 we originally went. Sheikh Zayed had just died, and his two younger sons had taken over the administration of the United Arab Emirates. But we actually went to there at the time of Sheikh Zayed, but we finished working for Sheikh Mohammed after about 12 months. So we finally got underway in 2007.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like there would have been some pretty hefty and long contracts. Did you have any particular challenges that you'd like to talk about?
There were plenty of challenges. One, of course, is not really understanding the Arab world. We Anglo-Saxons are pretty set in our ideas, and one of the biggest things I had to learn was deference to the local laws and to the local religion. But we managed to get through that, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Well, some of the challenges, of course, were really the high temperature. I remember we imported an ARAN from the United States to do all our pavement data collection. And when I talked to them, I said, it's very hot here. "Oh, yes, really, we know. We worked in Texas. We've been in some hot country." So we bought it. The first day we took it out, the air conditioning died completely, and then all the transistors burnt out.
Oh.
So it was, Texas is nothing like the Middle East. I recall being out there in the desert on one occasion when the temperature was so hot it burnt your nostrils. That's why they wear all the headgear to really protect themselves. The desert can be unforgiving and that was something we had to learn to cope with and redo all the transistors in the vehicle, of course. It was pretty good to sell the company out to Fugro, a Dutch company. Qatar was a different kettle of fish. In Qatar we had a good rapport. Daniel did an immense job and it just percolated along. But the Fugro, a Dutch company, decided they wanted to buy us, and 1 week before the global financial crisis we actually sold out to the Dutch at a very good price. So they took over a lot of that worry, and all I had to do was the engineering, which I appreciated.
Yeah, much as someone who's just recently become a project manager themselves, I could say that my favourite part is the engineering.
Yeah.
The project management is, sometimes I wish there was a bit less of that one.
Well, I'm still, of course, doing a little bit of engineering for John. I've been looking at visual images from the LCMS and the LRMS. I've rated over 11,000 to date. I want to get up to 20,000, and one day we might put that into a machine and get a machine to do it much faster. I can do 120 images an hour, but I can only keep it up for about an hour and a half. Whereas if your computer could do the same job, we could really make it cost-wise for everybody.
No, that's definitely a very, very exciting space. We're definitely looking forward to see where that could go to. But actually, we'll draw our attention back to the first project you had in the Middle East, which was in Qatar, right? With the road that just was impassable, as you said. So what actually happened there? What was the problem?
When I appeared on the site, I said, "Where's the drains?" They said, "Oh, we don't need drains. This is the desert." But they got about 8 inches of rain in one night, and of course the water had nowhere to go but tear up the road. And I actually said to them, "Well, we better recycle all that asphalt." And the answer was, "Recycling's for poor countries." And I said, "Well, if you don't recycle this, it won't be long before you're a poor country." They just got bulldozers and pushed all 8 inches, 9 inches of asphalt, pushed it out in the desert and started again. And when I looked at the figures from the laboratory, they were all copper plate in perfect condition, and all the quality control figures, and all in the middle of the specs. And I knew that wasn't the case. Quite clearly, someone had just sat in the office or the pub or somewhere and recorded their results. And I picked up a sample that was supposed to be 3% voids, an asphalt sample, and you could almost see through it. So the Emiratis were being ripped off by a Malaysian company who did all the easy bits, then threw their heads in the air and said, "This is all too hard." So they spent a lot of money repairing it. But with Daniel Ludeman on the job, on the quality control, this time they got what they were supposed to.
Excellent. It sounds like quite
a good job. Lovely people. The Qataris are lovely people to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, that's as an engineer, that's kind of what you want, isn't it? A big problem to solve, because we're all just problem solvers, aren't we?
Yeah.
No, that's great. So you mentioned earlier that Fugro bought you out just before the financial crisis, which is really, really good timing on your part, I suppose. So what happened after that?
Yeah, the best deal was 1 week before the financial crisis. I smiled for quite a while. Fugro required me to work for them for 3 years. I stayed on in the UAE for 3 years. So I served out the 3 years, came back to Australia at the age of 70, and the 3 years came up, and I thought, time to retire. And I was on a panel, accreditation panel, for the Institution of Engineers for universities. The University of Sunshine Coast was looking for a professor. So our second son, Stuart, was finishing up in the army and had good credits. So I suggested him. He said, "Oh, I don't want to drive up to the Sunshine Coast every day. No, I don't want the job." So I rang up the professor and said, "Oh, my son doesn't want the job." He said, "What about you?" And I said, "I'm a bit old and irascible." He said, "Send your resume." which I did. And 1 week later I had the chair of pavement engineering at the University of the Sunshine Coast, which morphed into an endowed chair. The Main Roads Queensland endowed my chair, and I stayed there for 10 years, but I did retire at 80.
I mean, that's a good age to retire, I think. I mean, anyone who gets past 70 and still working has got my utmost respect as a bright and bushy-tailed 26-year-old. Do you ever see any sort of evidence of your work back then still in use today, or do you hear any stories about how some of the projects you were overseeing at the time are still kicking on?
Yeah, I was told the other day the original Sydney Performance Specified Maintenance contract, which was really the start of something big with Transfield, has just been renewed for another 30 years. 30? So that's one that's carrying on. I look at some councils that we've been doing. I've been looking at all these videos for Son John, and particularly when I look at somewhere like Toowoomba, and I see the very high percentage of roads that are in good condition, about 70% are in good condition with nothing to be done. I think, and I go back, we've been providing Pavement Management Services has been providing the pavement management system to Toowoomba Council for 25 years. So something there must be working. Daniel Ludeman, that was in Qatar, moved over into Abu Dhabi for Fugro. He subsequently has left them, or since left them, and he's working on a big pavement management deal in New Zealand. Okay. Alan Rowland, who was over there with me, the New Zealander, he came back and did his PhD with me at the University of Sunshine Coast, and he's gone back to the UAE doing pavement management with his PhD. And Zaffa, who I took over to help me run it, Zaffa's still working for the Department of Public Works.
Well, that's good. Well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of students at that symposium. So if you were to impart any knowledge onto a student that might be attending the symposium on the weekend, what do you think is the most important thing for them to know if you want to enter this family of pavement engineering?
Talking pavement management, you've got to repair the cause, not the effect. Too many times I see people throw a hatful of asphalt into a pothole without probably even taking the water out of the bottom of it. And all you do is make the problem come back in a couple of weeks' time. So treat the cause, not the effect. And that's what pavement management is about. Really doing the preventive maintenance now, because a crack or a pothole in the pavement gets very bad quickly. Whereas if a pavement is already in terminal value, it's not going to get worse much faster. So do the easy work, the cheap $5 work first, and keep the pavement, the top end of the pavement, in good condition. So that would be the advice, but it's all pretty esoteric now.
Well, definitely some words to live by. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Yeaman, for sitting down with us. It's been a lovely time, and it's a lovely day outside as well, so I hope you have a little bit more time to enjoy it. But that's it for us. So thanks to everyone for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. And if you'd like to subscribe to our podcast, you may. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Castbox. I'll see you next time. Thank you.